messages at the top of the hour. It's only befitting that I come to you, both Honorable Minister and Dr. Tanga, so that we can be able to start exactly how the week ended and began. Dr. Chris, you made a comment, and I want to quote you verbatively. You said, whatever the results, whether I win or not, I will not associate myself to these results. They are illegitimate. What did you mean by this?
There was no election.
Okay, thank you very much.
You are just
the last time I was here,
you're quoting half of his conversation. He said there was election in Colorado. In fact, he said people are voting from darkness. No, I am volunteering information. He said Tango Doi was conducting elections from dark corners. He says that's where Rwenzori voted from.
Okay.
I don't know how Tango Doi did the counting, but there was no... All that BARYOMUNSI said.
Should I cede my time to who was voting in Kororo?
I am sorry.
No, it's okay.
What did you mean by this?
So, thank you very much, Timothy. The last time I was here, I was a SEC member. Now I am not. We had a successful conference, a delegates conference of NRM, which attracts over 20,000 delegates from across the country.
Successful operation when the person is dead.
And in terms of...
Sorry, I was reminding Chris, he's a medical doctor. The medical doctors can say we had a successful operation, but the patient died.
Why are you anxious?
No, I don't want to forget.
No, I'm saying we had a successful conference.
Yes.
Successful in terms of the delegates traveling from all over the country, coming and assembling in Kororo. They are accredited, they are given uniform, they appear smart. The chairman of the party speaks well, gives the vision of the party. His speech will be part of the manifesto which we are going to produce as NRM. To that extent, I'm saying things went well. Probably where I had issues myself was the organization of the elections. And I think the comment you are attributing to me was made in line with the elections. You see, in NRM, when we went multi-party in 2005-06, we began by using electoral colleges to vote flag bearers for various positions. Yeah, meaning flag bearers, but also we're having structured elections the way we are having them now. Then in 2010, we had a discussion and there was a complaint that I think specific complaint was from Eastern Uganda, I think Butareja, around that one of the candidates took away delegates for like 2 weeks and the other candidates could not access them. And many other examples of bribery using money. And because of that, we were persuaded to change from electoral college to adult suffrage. And therefore, the primaries of 2010 and 2015 were by adult suffrage, secret ballot. Then in the run-up to the 2020 primaries, we had discussions, and there were concerns that some people may probably have access to ballot papers, whether true or not, but there was that concern. Plus also issues of cost, the cost of the primary elections. Then the delegates conference made a decision to change, to say let's have adult suffrage. Adult suffrage means every registered member participates in voting, but this time round by lining up. And so in 2020, and then this year, we had primaries by lining up, but at the village level. Now, to me, the difference with this one now is that we had, in 2020, we never had a conference because of COVID. By this time around, we had a delegates conference here in Kororo, which attracts huge numbers. So Dr. Tango Doi, as our chair of the Electoral Commission, now organized the elections again by lining up. And I don't want to blame him, but I think also the Electoral Commission got overwhelmed because we had not had that experience where you organize elections by lining up, and you have huge numbers in one place. I was a candidate because I have been the vice chairperson for NRM for Western Uganda, and I was seeking re-election for a second term. Now, why I made that comment, it was toward the end when I think Kayunga and Mukono were voting, so I chose to go there and stand in front of the line which was to vote me as a candidate. And my opponent also stood next. And then his line was like 4 times longer than mine. Then my supporters kept shouting, said, "Honorable Doctor, those are not delegates. Many of those people you are seeing lining behind the other opponent, they are not delegates because we know each other." So they asked me, "What do we do?" I said, "You break the line and join them and break the lines." Then the president, it was towards 4 a.m. there, then the president noticed there was some commotion. And that's when he came on the podium and said, "What is going on?" And then I tried to explain that, "Your Excellency, I think no election is taking place here because access control collapsed. I had information the candidates had brought people from town, and many of these people voting are not even delegates. So it has just been chaos." And then he ordered the registrar to use the register now and conduct the election. And the registrar said, "No, I know the delegates of Mukono, let them line up. Let the agent of Dr. BARYOMUNSI come here, the agent of Akiki, the other candidate, and then your supporters line up." So when he started counting, and Dr. Angodoy was there, they removed many non-delegates who were in the line of Akiki. I didn't count how many, but they were, because he kept saying, "You, which committee do you belong to?" Someone says, I am Nabachara at the village. They say, "Nabachara for where?" There's even someone who said, "I am from Murakai," yet he was Mukono voting. So many people were removed. So at the end of the day, in that line, Akiki, my opponent, got 40 votes, and I got 59. Yet when I was standing there, his line was 4 times longer than mine. And that is what had happened all over. So, why I told the president that it is very unfortunate that we failed to organize credible elections is that I had witnessed what was going on. Can you imagine, like Bunyoro, they just gathered and said, block vote, and they filled the DR form and they gave my opponent 700 something votes. They gave me 0-0. Very strange. So
in NRM to organize an internal party election for the party. Yes. How are you going to organize a national election for the country? From what you
the national election is done by the Independent Electoral Commission. So let me first finish. So, because you asked me why I made that statement,
yes,
that I will not accept the results, whether they are in my favor or not, is that as a candidate, I had witnessed what had gone on. In some districts, they voted as a district. In others, there was a region like Chigezi. Say Chigezi, where you have 6 districts, they all gather there in a mass. Bunyoro, all the districts. Then others, they were. So I think Dr. Angodoy was ill-prepared, and probably he didn't foresee what it would mean having an election by lining up in a squeezed place, in my view. Although Kororo is big, but when they erected the tents, they were squeezed because people would vote in one tent. Afterward, they just shift to another tent. You find Bunyoro is joining Ankole, and they merge. And when we are counting Ankole, Bunyoro is also there. So it was messed up, and that's why I said, irrespective of the outcome, by the time I spoke, they hadn't started. I said, whether it is my favor or not, I will not accept the result because it was not a genuine election. I've been participating in elections for many years. That was not an election, in my view.
So
and that's why,
with hindsight of that comment, are you petitioning?
No, I am not. Why? Because what would be the prayers? The prayers would be that they be repeated. Repeating it would mean calling a delegates conference again, which is very costly. So I didn't petition. I am not a pathologist who dwells on post-mortem. I am a public health scientist who uses postmortem results
So you need
to better the future.
You need to immunize the tongue.
To be preventive, to design a preventive program. So my concern is that this happened, and it is now behind me, but we need to draw lessons from it and then see how to improve in the future. For instance, if I was Dr. Tango Doi then, I would have stopped the elections because I moved with him and he actually did his best, but I think he was also overwhelmed. We moved with him across the tents, but the whole organization arrangement had collapsed. Probably he should have stopped the election and maybe started afresh in the morning when it is daytime. He was having an election at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., like somebody was saying. I went to Gwenzori where they were voting from outside and it was semi-dark. You could not recognize the NFS. And while they were there, a huge team of like 100 people came and just stormed the lines and joined the lines. You could not tell whether this is from Gwenzori or is from somewhere. So it was quite messed up.
Okay.
But I think in hindsight, as a piece of advice, I think this election should have been done at the district level the way we did it during COVID, so that the numbers are manageable and the people are able to take rational decisions. If people are gathered in the Kabale, they can reflect and say, whom do we vote as the vice chairperson? Whom do we vote as this position? By the way it was in Kororo, money was flowing all over, people being paid. I reached somewhere at the polling station and somebody told me, you raised 5 million shillings and all those people who are seated will vote for you. I said, I'm sorry. Yes, I have the 5 million shillings, but I'm not going to raise it. So the environment was not very conducive for an orderly election to take place.
If what you're giving us was 25,000 people, and as Andrew had asked, what will happen to a national election? I'll come back to you on that one. Let me come to Dr.
No,
Tang.
why don't you ask me to answer it?
No. Let's first finish the NRM.
In the forthcoming elections, we are not going to gather 25,000 in one place. We have polling stations which are...
Because we're going to have almost 22 million people voting.
No, so, but not in one place.
Let's come to Dr. Tang. Doctor, how would you rate your process, especially all the way from Wednesday last week to almost the end of the week? Your electoral process.
I think, thank you very much. First of all, is that this was the tail end election.
Yes.
We had super elections from the village, 72,000 villages. And no one wants to talk about that when the blame game shifts without apportioning responsibility fairly. We had the election from the village, 72,000 villages. They voted their 30 leaders very well. Actually, the whole process started with a register being taken to the village on 6th May for people to actually check whether their names are in the register. Every village was so wonderful. It was done so wonderfully in every village that you go, you check for your name, you find the details are not enough, you actually add details and make sure you have all your details captured. Thereafter, I called for the first election, which is the structure of the party. To me, that is the basic election where people do things the right way. And that election had no problem. We moved to the parish, the sub-county. Then once we reach the district, now the money flow comes in. The influence factor comes in. The big people now start showing that we are now here. And the mess starts. The advantage I have as a chair of the commission is that this commission is answerable to SEC. And for whatever we do, we must present to SEC. I presented regulations to SEC. I presented our thinking as Electoral Commission to SEC. And I'll come to that in other depth. One of the things as Electoral Commission we suggested is that let's decentralize the election. Good enough, Honorable Chris is a member of SEC. Because we had the experience of COVID, where we voted him. This was his first term in SEC. The experience of COVID, we didn't assemble in Kololo. We actually had virtual election and we had smooth election. Our thinking was, why don't we decentralize this election to the 18 sub-regions? We have Teso, we have Bukedi. Bukedi with 7 districts come together, vote, and we collect the results and announce at Kololo. Why was I intending that? You do not need to bring everybody to Kololo. Bring the cream de la cream who will now vote the SEC or the other leaders at Kololo. I even wanted that for the youth election. That let's decentralize this election. Not to bring these people together in a place like Kololo, which, according to me, in all meetings, was not right for that election.
So what failed your suggestions?
SEC is over to us. What we present to SEC would even be shot down before you mention the second sentence. And I'm free to talk. I'm free to say this because it's there.
No, but some of us will that view of the decentralizing, but we never had that discussion.
Let me tell you, read all the documents I gave you. You know what belittles me is that you actually burn the midnight candle to try to bring things to SEC, the SEC which is outgoing or outgone. But they will go into just two things and then shoot everything down. You remember when we had SEC meeting in the plot 10? I brought the yardstick parameters that not everybody should become a SEC member. I said, what about if we put these standards?
Which standards?
I said, well, let's track record of a person. At least let's look at the track record of a person.
You almost sound like you're saying vetting the person.
When you're
Yes.
going to monitor whether there are no
Yes, because
standards.
this SEC should vet the
This is when
candidates.
they end up with the
But what would they use for vetting the candidates if Electoral Commission does not give them a temporary whatever for them to adopt?
What was
The
the
guideline.
criteria you felt a person should meet to qualify to sit?
One
on?
of these is contribution to the party. We are not on what the Right Honorable Kadaga said, that you must have been 10 years. No, what have you done for the party?
How would you measure that?
Good. But the presentation of the candidate enables you to measure to an extent.
No. Some of the measurements that were being said is bringing 10 members from the opposition. Is that a measurement?
What is wrong with that? Being some a contribution.
How tangible is that? To
What
the
is
development
wrong
of the
with
party?
her saying the short time I've been here, I have done the following. And one of it is to convert some people into the party.
So that's a sustainable measure as a yardstick.
That is one thing you can measure, use to say this person is active.
So what guideline would you give?
The
for
guidelines
that?
I wanted to give is not what I'm going to give you here, because it was shot down by SEC. We had even gone deep. I think SEC was partly right. I said, what about if you find someone's financial? What about if you get, you remember, what about if you get someone's record from Interpol? What about, I gave them a set of measures. Not that those were rigid measures, but for them to actually sieve out, so that somehow we can have something to benchmark on and then say, let us evaluate people along this.
So who would be in charge of evaluating the people?
The committee of SEC.
Oh, okay.
Because any vetting is by SEC. The SEC who have candidates had again the right to vet the candidates. Because most of the SEC members were candidates. But they were, by the constitution, they are the ones supposed to vet.
So
But
Dr.
vetting
Tango
wasn't the
Doi,
biggest
so
problem
you
in this
agree
case.
with Chris's criticism that the election was poorly managed?
No. You know, the management
Because
of election
your
is
argument
something.
was that it was, you had asked it to be decentralized, it wasn't, and the mess is talking about, therefore, is a consequence of them turning down.
Mine is a trajectory. That's how I present myself, unfortunately. Mine is a trajectory. At the end, you apportion, all of you must blame yourself for a failure. I'm not that type of person who will say, Chris failed me, the Electoral Commission failed. It is a long process before election. When they agreed to the measures I put, that before you express interest, you must do the following. You must do the following. Did you see comedians coming for forms in plot 10?
Staying with you,
In
Dr.
plot
Tanga,
13.
what were the guidelines of counting?
Now that is the entail which I'll come to.
Because in your press today or yesterday, you said that in some areas you agreed with the people and you were counting 1 up to 10, then the next 10. I thought you already had a guideline.
Partly what Chris...
There's no guarantee that people will vote for him. And even those who take his money will comfortably not vote for him, arguing that because he's a minister, this was their money anyway. They wouldn't see it as personal money. So we need to distinguish between the two things. First of all, what is the money being used for? But also, being given money does not translate in you changing your opinion and voting. So that was for the rural areas. Now you saw the issue in Kololo, and by the way, the issues in Kololo, it's not just that things occurred in Kololo. Most of that money was not being given in Kololo. It was being given outside Kololo. We saw teams, delegates from particular regions, camping in particular hotels. Actually, economically, many hotels in Kampala made money. So if you've come from District X or Region X, our hotel is going to be Grand Global. Okay? So every aspiring MOP and leader would have to go there to ensure that their facilitation goes, and it was being coined into many things, either transportation, if you came from far. Some people, I think, there were reports of some people being given 50,000, there were reports of others being giving 30, others gave 10, and others, of course, gave 300,000, others gave 500,000, and these are all reports because I didn't see any. Now, the question for me as an analyst is to say, if someone has come from very far, has pitched camp, let's say in Grand Global Hotel, and everyone's passing by and giving them transport refund, I don't, from where we sit, we see people being cheapening themselves. From where they sit, actually they made money. If you came from a very far area and you went back with 1 million shillings, this trip to Kampala was not a very bad idea, okay? But of course, then they had to vote, and some people, we are told, who gave the money were not actually among the people standing for positions in stake, okay? But people are trying to show delegates in areas that they care, so that when they finally go to consolidate the vote come January, people will remember that when we came to Kampala, there was something. So I think people are not cheapening themselves. People are making rational decisions, okay? Rational decisions don't have to be perfect according to you and me. That decision is made according to what the person thinks at the time, okay? So if people are passing by in a hotel where delegates have stayed and they are giving them money, they'll take the money. But how they decide to vote depends on actually how well people lobbied them and how well people voted. So I think we should distinguish the two things. But also I think, as I've said here before, we focus on an electoral process because that's what is happening now. But the question I asked here before, what else happens outside the political cycles? When we go as researchers to meet people, we pay them transport refund because they came in an FGD. When you go as an agriculture expert, whether you're ACAD or whatever, you are meeting a number of farmers, you brought them from all over the hills to teach them new forms of terracing, you're going to pay them. You pay them for learning the information you have, you pay them for the food they are going to eat, you pay them for the transport refund. So politics is the point at which this is heightened and amplified. But in general life, we have built a culture since neoliberalism that people have to be rewarded for every activity they engage in, okay? That's why even when people come to your workshop, even if it's in Kampala here, people want to be paid. So let us see it within the general tapestry of how things occur in this country.
Thank you. Let me read some feedback that has come through. Dear Timothy, the primaries of the NRM recently concluded national conference were marred with commotion, chaos, and allegations of fake delegates. From what transpired, I am convinced 100% that Dr. Tango Doi is the best chairperson for the National Electoral Commission for NRM. Without Tango Doi, we would not have registered million petitions. Kudos to him. However, can the doctor clear the allegation that he sometimes calls his registrars to announce non-winners, as heard from the minister from Namutumba? Okay, this is Godwin from Muyenga. Thank you, Godwin. Good evening, Timothy. Thank you for the show. How I wish that Honorable Semuju would join the Patriotic League of Uganda.
They will shave my beard.
He may be a member.
Can Dr. Tango Doi explain the numerical counting that happened? Okay, he will do that.
From 100 to 150.
Depends on the base.
I also want to know from Dr. Tango Doi exactly how he would rate his performance, especially alongside these elections. Okay, thank you for that message. Good evening, Timothy. I request that Honorable Chairperson of the EC tells the people why he chose to have voters line up? Isn't he aware that most of the people who voted are not supposed to vote? Okay. And lastly, why can't the doctor inform us about the verdict of the petitions and what it means? I think he did that. He had a press conference where he explained a lot about what was happening there. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be digesting these issues and more.